reading on the mobile, I want to ask you two questions about it. One is that, do you yourself and at Juggernaut, do you all see this as a gateway to like reading for people? I know one of your missions is to get more people in India to read. Do you see this as a consumption medium in itself, or more like an entry point for people who won't pick up a book otherwise? And my other question is, what do you do? Do you read on the mobile a lot, or are you still the old school physical book reader?
I'll answer that question first. I'm omnivorous.
Okay.
I read everywhere. I read on the Kindle, I read on my phone, I read on laptops, I read print books.
Okay.
Right now, just before we had this Zoom session, I was reading a manuscript on the phone.
Okay.
But every night, I'm currently reading a history book that I'm loving, but I'm reading it as a print book by my bedside. But this morning, I was working out of in a coffee shop, and I was reading on my laptop.
Okay.
But primarily between the phone and print are my two movements. Okay, Juggernaut was started in two ways, right? There was a, let's call it there was a publisher point of view and there was a reader point of view. At the reader point of view, it was very simple. I just saw people on the phone. And I thought, if everyone is going to live on the phone, they will also read on the phone.
Right.
And certainly they're reading news now on the phone, right? New York Times digital subscriptions have now outdone their print subscriptions.
Right.
So that was sort of one thinking, and what would it mean? What would it mean to be on the phone, right? The second thing I thought as a publisher, which is different from the reader, is that I thought publishers have to be totally amphibious. I don't believe that print will die.
Right.
In fact, one of the biggest responses I've got when I talk about Juggernaut is what people say as a criticism, but I've also seen as actually the most interesting and advantageous thing about this business. They said, I love print books. Nothing can beat print. Nothing can beat the feeling of paper and the smell of a print book.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It means that my digital readers are not going to cannibalize my print reading.
Right.
If the world of print readers are so loyal to their medium, they're not going to move to digital. Right. And yet we know that there's a digital readership world. It's happening across the world. It's happening. Right. So there's a world that's clearly loyal to print. And there's a world that's reading on digital. And now these worlds are going to often meet. There might be a person more like me. Okay, there'll be certain books you'll buy on print, certain books you'll buy on digital. But they're not going to necessarily eat up on each other, right? So my thing was simple. I thought, how are you truly an amphibious publisher? So, Juggernaut's main income and revenues come out of very, very successful print list.
Right.
We have an extremely high functioning, impactful and revenue generating print list, which includes authors such as Nobel Prize winning, like Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, down to a Twinkle Khanna and Rujita Divekar, right? So to a Kareena Kapoor, to a Karan Johar, to a William Dalrymple, to a Sham Saran, to a Saurav Ganguly, to a Rajat Gupta. I mean, these are all my print lists.
Right.
So but the thing I wanted to ask myself is, let's say I have this print list. Now, what does it really mean to play online? And I think selling your books a la carte on Kindle is just a boring way to do digital. I mean, you have to play with owning a platform. You have to play with playing with a subscription model. You have to play with breaking up a book in various ways. You have to play with thinking about what would it mean to own data about your customers and how would you use it? And you use it not just on your digital platform. How do you use it to commission across the board? I'll give you a very simple example. I know from Juggernaut that my biggest readers online are from South India. Okay. Now, what does that tell? And now this data is then, if you match it with Amazon and Flipkart, their biggest orders come from Bangalore, I think. Okay. And if you now add it up with other data from print books, you know that the biggest sales of print books for most publishers are Delhi, and then it moves to Bangalore. Now, what that means is there's a readership in South India, and they're willing to pay money, right? So what has that led us to? It has led us, for example, to create more non-fiction from South India.
From South India.
I actively think of commissioning books on the Cholas and the Pallavas and the Chalukyas, perhaps even more when 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and certainly 7 years ago, I was just thinking Mughals, Sultanate.
Right.
I moved to the South.
Right.
Now, why is that? Because my readership is there, right? And where am I learning it? I'm learning it, of course, across Amazon and a Flipkart and my print data, but I'm seeing it at a regular basis at a city level out of my Juggernaut app. Now, this is not just helping me commission on my digital.
Right.
Personal finance, I am seeing on my app that in the last 5 years post-COVID, we've seen a spike in personal finance stories, but we're seeing a decline in classic management books. Okay. How to be a better manager, blah, blah, blah. All those, we used to publish Harvard Business School. Those books have gone right down.
Yeah.
But personal finance, right up. And people it's not just free. So, Juggernaut, the app plays with free and paid, and people are paying for it. So now what does that tell us? That amount of that information, I'm using not just for the app, I'm using it to commission my print on my print list. My print and my app are the same list.
Got it.
I mean, I put up. So there's a kind of, the thing I wanted to ask is, how do I become a stronger, better, more interesting publisher? And how does digital help me do that? And that has always been the vision of Juggernaut, right? Is to be a better publisher. And to me, it's a no-brainer. We have to play in digital, and I don't think traditional publishing plays enough.
Right.
Like sort of dipping their toes in, and they're not.
Yeah.